Bring the lights down low, it's time to show. Lights, camera, you know what we mean. Behold the magic of the silver screen. Some movies rock, some movies shock. They're powerful, alright. We cover them all on your favorite part. So many movies we can choose. Even when you win, you lose. Life moves pretty fast. Some will fizzle and some movies last. I understood there would be no math. It's the 30-something movie podcast. Be excellent to each other. Peace out and word to your mother. They're from the best decades. Movie magic that never fades. Lightsabers clash, phasers set to stun. Action packed from dusk till dawn. We have deep thoughts and questions free. Come share our love of the movies we see. Life moves pretty fast. Some will fizzle and some movies last. I understood there would be no math. It's the 30-something movie podcast.
Well, hello, boys and girls. It is the 30-something movie podcast. It is Kids Month, so we're doing a bunch of cartoons and family movies this month, and we're starting it off with Toy Story, 1995. It was shocking to realize that this movie was 30 years old. A little bit, because I mean, I'm perpetually 29, so I don't know how this movie is 30. As you can hear, Jeff Mazuka's here with us tonight. Jeff, how are you doing?
It's great to be back. I enjoyed our Les Mis discussion, and once I looked at the upcoming movies, I was like, I really got to make my way back to this thing. So hopefully I'll be with you guys for a bunch more episodes this year.
I figured if I crammed a bunch of Disney movies in 1 month, you'd come running.
That's usually how that works. Yeah.
Know your audience. It's good. Good stuff.
Although there is a notable missing Disney movie from our list.
Oh,
But,
what's that one?
Oh.
Well, there was a little movie that came out, an animated film called A Goofy Movie.
That's true. Yes.
Which should have been part of our movies for this month, maybe instead of some others. But
Okay.
we'll talk about that some other time.
Okay. All right. We also got Bo Warmbold. Bo, how are you doing?
Yo. Quite well, John.
Good.
Thank you.
Excellent. Dennis is, because I know Dennis has worked before and does a lot of stuff with like video production, audio production. So I know Dennis appreciates the fact of being on an audio medium and apparently eating soup out of a metal tin with a spoon that's going to make a lot of noise.
You're hearing that?
Yeah.
Yeah, your noise canceling Mac is only so good there, bud.
I tried the paper spoon, but it didn't work.
Well, but I kid because I tolerate. How are you doing, Dennis?
Good. I was waiting the introduction. I was going to mute myself. So.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah.
Can I mute
I'm
you?
good.
No, I'm not sure you can.
I'm doing super.
I'm super. Thanks for asking.
Thanks for asking.
Super.
There you go.
Oh, God, you're
There
so
you go.
funny.
Wow. Man, that's like a grandpa joke.
Mm-hmm.
No. All right. Then we've also got Pat Canigallo. Pat, how are you doing?
Great. How's everybody doing out there in Zoom land?
Existing. Getting
Yeah.
by.
Abiding.
Yeah.
Good luck, you. Good luck, kitty.
I'm glad we could connect via the
Yeah.
The dudes.
Yeah, I'm sorry. When I stepped away from the camera, did the cat come and say hello?
Oh, yeah.
Great picture.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a little awkward. I think the cat might have sat on the camera.
That's what he does. I hate to say it. That's what they both do whenever I'm podcasting or type in the computer or whatever. The cats will come over and like sit down right on whatever you're doing.
Either
And
that or
then-
you had a black eye.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah, anything's possible. But the other thing they like to do is they like to step on the keyboard so that it goes, and they turn the computer on and all that kind of stuff.
As long as they don't click send, it's okay.
Yeah, that's where it becomes problematic. But speaking of wait, which one are we recording?
This is Toy Story.
Oh, okay. Guys, I was going to say, speaking of problematic, but that'll be next week's movie.
We're doing that next week. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
Yeah. We'll get there.
All right.
All right. Well, before we get started, as I said, this one is Toy Story. But before we get started, this is our first episode of the month. And when we do first of the month, we do like to hop in the DeLorean, go back in time, and see what was going on this month in 1995. So we're going to look at February 1995.
When this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're gonna see some serious.
All right, February 2nd of 1995, the Space Shuttle Discovery launched on a mission carrying the first Russian cosmonaut to fly on the U.S. Space Shuttle. February 25th, NASA's Hubble Space Telescope captured detailed images of Mars, revealing a cooler and drier planet than was previously observed. On February 5th, 2025, Pat's phone captured images of Uranus. I'll just leave it.
I got
there.
nothing. I'm trying. I was trying.
Okay.
I got nothing. I got nothing.
All right, that's fine.
Sorry.
You don't have to
Also,
have
keep
anything.
in mind there's an almost 7-year-old that's standing here, so we're just going to keep it real family friendly.
We are always family friendly.
I love the warning note, Jeff. I mean, that is like the universal parent warning note. Like, okay, I get him. It's like when I call someone in the car and you know, I tell them what they really think. It's like, yeah, I think I said that. And Tammy's like, yeah, by the way, your daughter's right in the back seat. She has some questions for you about your word choices. I'm like,
Oh,
yeah.
All right, hold on a second, guys. Here we go.
Hi, welcome to the 30-something movie podcast.
Oh, he's back.
He's back.
excellent.
He's back. We're talking about Toy Story. Do you like Toy Story? Mm-hmm. What's your favorite part about Toy Story?
I just love how all the toys just come up to life and everybody's so concerned that Woody broke Buzz.
Got the quote
There you go.
fingers going too.
There you go.
played. Well
Nice
played.
job.
So we're done here.
We're done,
Yeah,
guys.
that's-
This has been a great
that's it.
episode.
Bring the
That's it.
lights
That's
down
a wrap.
low, it's time to show. Lights, camera, you.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
I mean, we don't have anything else to talk about anymore.
I know.
Actually, basically covered the entire movie. That's all you need to know.
We just
Yeah,
got
so
all
it's
of our
time to talk
sleep
about
back.
Pocahontas now.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, what do you got for Pocahontas? So we can all just go have a cocktail.
All right, fast forward to next week.
Already having a cocktail. What are you talking about?
All right. So, does it bother you that the main character is a white man? No. Oh, we'll talk about that next week. February 26th, the 47th Grammy Awards were held, where Tony Bennett won Album of the Year. February 1st, Pauline Etienne, a Belgian actress, was born, known for films such as The Past and Eden. February 7th, Tina Majorino, an American actress known for her roles in Waterworld, Napoleon Dynamite, and Veronica Mars. And then February 23rd, Andrew Wiggins, a Canadian basketball player known for his time with the Golden State Warriors and an NBA championship win. Let's see. Top sports, February 12th, the San Francisco 49ers defeated San Diego Chargers in Super Bowl 29. And then February 19th, Michael Jordan returned to the NBA after a brief stint in the minor leagues, wearing number 45. Top books in February 95 were The Bridges of Madison County by Robert James Waller. Top movie was Dumb and Dumber for the entire month. And top songs were On Bended Knee by Boyz II Men and Take a Bow by Madonna.
I don't remember that one.
Honestly, I don't either. I know the Boyz II Men song. I don't remember the Madonna song.
Yeah, I find my knowledge of Madonna's music to be lacking in many aspects.
Surface level.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
What was the Madonna song?
Take a Bow.
Wow. No.
Yeah, I got nothing.
Yep. All right. This one came out November 22nd, 1995. Rated G with a runtime of 81 minutes. Directed by John Lasseter. Also did A Bug's Life and Cars. Written by Joss Whedon, Andrew Stanton, and Joel Cohen, and Alex Sokolow. Joss Whedon did Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Firefly. Stanton did Finding Nemo. Joel Cohen, Alec Sokolow also did Toy Story 2 and The Simpsons. Producers were Bonnie Arnold, who did Incredibles and Up. Ralph Guggenheim did Toy Story 2 and Monsters, Inc. Composer was Randy Newman, who did The Natural, Ragtime, and You've Got Mail. Art direction done by Ralph Eggleston, who did The Incredibles and Fern Gully. Editor was Lee Unkrich, who did Toy Story 2, Monsters, Inc., and Finding Nemo. Pixar Animation was the studio. Budget was $30 million. Box office was $373 million. Rotten Tomatoes gives it an 88%. Cinema Score gives it an A. Tom Hanks plays Woody. He was in Forrest Gump and Sleepless in Seattle. Tim Allen was Buzz Lightyear. He was in Home Improvement and The Santa Claus. Don Rickles, who passed in 2017, played Mr. Potato Head. He was in Casino and Goodfellas. Jim Varney, know what I mean, passed away in 2000 and was Slinky Dog. He was in Ernest Goes to Camp and The Beverly Hillbillies. Wallace Shawn was Rex. He was in Clueless and The Princess Bride. John Ratzenberger was Ham. He was in Cheers and Toy Story 2. Annie Potts was Bo Peep. He was in Ghostbusters and Pretty in Pink. Eric Von Detten played Sid Phillips. He was in Days of Our Lives and Recess. Laurie Metcalf was Andy's mom. She was in Roseanne and The Big Bang Theory. And R. Lee Ermey, who passed in 2018, played Sarge. He was in Full Metal Jacket and Seven. A couple of other really fun family movies.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah. Seven, very much a family movie. It's a good counting movie. It's a lot like Sesame Street.
A little bit.
Yeah.
In a very sick and twisted sort of way.
Sure, yeah. Who can tell me what's in the box? What's in the box? Anyway.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
It's been a week. All right, so this is one of the very first full-length CGI feature films. Buzz Lightyear's name was inspired by the Apollo 11 astronaut Buzz Aldrin. I don't know if you guys know this story. Billy Crystal was actually originally offered the chance to voice Buzz Lightyear, but did decline that. And then after seeing the movie, he said it was the biggest mistake he'd ever made. Upon learning this, John Lasseter telephoned Billy's house to offer him the role of Mike Wazowski in Monsters, Inc. that would be coming out in 2001. Billy's wife answered the phone and said, "John Lasseter wants to talk to you." Billy took the telephone from his wife and immediately said, "Yes."
And, I feel like Billy Crystal was a better Mike Wazowski than he would have been playing Woody.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
He was the perfect Wazowski.
Or Buzz Lightyear. He was going to be Buzz Lightyear.
Oh, he was going to be... No. That wouldn't have worked.
No. Yeah, had it been Woody, that might be different. Like, I could see him possibly as a Woody, but
maybe
not a Buzz Lightyear.
You need someone that has that deeper, more gravelly sounding voice.
Yeah. The character of Andy is named after Andries Van Dam, a Brown University professor and computer science and animation pioneer who taught many of the people who made this movie. This is the first appearance of the Pizza Planet truck, which shows up as a recurring Easter egg in, is it every Pixar film? I know they've got a lot that they spread throughout the movies.
I don't know if it's every at this point.
Okay.
But in a lot of movies.
Yeah.
That's one of the Easter eggs of the Pixar universe.
Okay. This one I thought was kind of a fun one. It goes back to my slightly darker take on the whole thing. The carpet in Sid's house has the same hexagonal pattern as the carpet in the Overlook Hotel from The Shining.
Mm-hmm.
That's fun stuff. Tom Hanks recorded his dialogue during the breaks of Sleepless in Seattle in 1993 and A League of Their Own in 1992 because he did not want to record his dialogue during the breaks of Philadelphia or Forrest Gump. He didn't think he should do a comedic role in between minutes of playing serious roles.
Huh.
That
could have been a little complicated. Toy Story did receive 3 Academy Award nominations and a Special Achievement Award. And then there were 3 successful sequels, and this pretty much started Pixar's reign as being one of the revolutionary animation studios in the entire industry. So this was kind of the start of the whole thing. All right. Before we get on to the major moments and get through the plot of this one, anybody else have any other trivia that you know of that I didn't cover in that? I know we have some Disney fans here, so I wanted to give you a chance to give you a moment to shine if you had any trivia.
A113 shows up.
Oh yeah.
If you're familiar with that, but wasn't that a classroom number of George Lucas and a group of them when they were in film school?
Oh, I think so. Yeah.
Because it shows up in Star Wars, but it also shows up a lot in Pixar movies.
Mm-hmm.
It's the license plate of Andy's mom's car. It's A
Yes.
11, 13 or whatever. I don't remember what the actual number is.
I think it's A113.
Trying to think if there's anything else that stands out. You covered a lot of the trivia.
Okay.
I'll think about it and I'll interrupt you if anything comes to mind.
Yeah, that works. All right. In a world where toys come to life when humans aren't quite looking, a young boy's most prized possession, a pull-string cowboy named Woody, finds his place threatened by a new rival. A futuristic space ranger, Buzz Lightyear, crash lands into Andy's room, sparking a rivalry that could tear the toy community apart. But when they're separated from their owner, Woody and Buzz must learn to rely on each other, embarking on a daring adventure to find their way home. This episode, get ready for Toy Story. All right, so 10 major moments. We start off with the birthday party. The scene opens with Andy's birthday party. Toys like Mr. Potato Head, Slinky Dog, and Rex are pretty anxious about being replaced. Woody, who is Andy's favorite toy and the kind of de facto leader of the group, assures them nobody's getting replaced. He has to repeat that several times because they're all freaking out. Buzz Lightyear, the iconic Space Ranger, arrives complete with his laser lights, pop-out wings, and a recorded message telling everyone, Buzz Lightyear to the rescue. And his high-tech features immediately impress the other toys, and Andy's attention shifts, but that kind of sparks Woody's jealousy here right at the very beginning of the movie. And this was fun. Like the very, very beginning of the movie when they start to introduce all the toys. I even remember, seeing this as a kid. I was old enough at this point that I was in, what would I have been in? I would have been probably right at the very beginning of high school. So it was at a point where I wasn't playing with these toys, but I had a lot of these toys growing up as a kid. I had the Mr. Potato Head. You had the, I had, even if I didn't have Slinky Dog, I had a Slinky. We had a Speak and Spell. You had the Army Men with the parachutes. You had like all these different toys. And so it was just fun to see how they, how each one got brought out and each one's personality. And I thought they did just like a really nice kind of seamless job of introducing the personalities and really just getting you right into the story without having to have a whole lot of preamble.
And I also want to throw in there that, and I'll keep coming back to this theme, but like this was a movie that was enjoyable for the whole family. Cause I was a little bit older in high school when I saw it, loved it. And I think kids will like it. Older kids will like it. Young adults will like it. And it's funny because you're talking about that and you notice the toys and you get, but just some of the little innuendos that would go right over the kid's head. And I'm just saying when Woody's saying no one's being replaced and Andy loves us and all this kind of stuff. And then Slink Dog goes out and starts telling everyone, you guys calm down. Woody's never led us wrong. And he starts lecturing everybody. And Mr. Potato Head looks at someone, kind of elbows him and points at him and says, gives him the get a load of this guy. And I think he pulls his lips off and starts miming towards his rear end. So it's kind of like, and you wouldn't notice that as a kid. But conversely, it's not so far over the top that you're like, yeah, this is a little bit much. I mean, they really threaded the needle perfectly for a movie that the whole family could enjoy. And right from the get-go, the humor is appropriate for it too. So
and if you're, once you become familiar with the actors that they have voicing each of these characters, like if you're familiar with Don Rickles, that's right up his alley of humor, right? So to have Mr. Potato Head do that, it just fits because it's Don Rickles doing what Don Rickles does. There isn't any character that is miscast in this movie.
There's probably like a subliminal connection, I think, almost to that you don't necessarily consciously identify, but when you hear Mr. Potato as Don Rickles, everybody who knows Don Rickles, there's some sort of filter that goes through that process. Yeah. Like what you're saying, it's like
you hear that and you go,
what makes it work?
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course he's.
But you're not thinking Don Rickles is necessarily saying it. It's Mr. Potato Head, but somehow at a subconscious level, it's Don Rickles. But you're not conscious. You're experiencing the character, but somehow the help of knowing it's Don Rickles at a subconscious level helps it be more effective. If that's, I think,
well, not just effective, but accepted.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's effective in the way that they do it, but it's also just accepted because you're like, oh, that's a Don Rickles move right there.
Yeah.
But again, that's all the characters. They all are so perfectly cast that and all of them do such a great job in bringing out the personalities and giving each character a very unique personality.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, I don't know if you are going to touch on this or if I missed it when I was going to the bathroom before, but Pat was saying that like they thread the needle perfectly on the tone and making a family film that everybody can watch. And from what I remember of the history, and so I don't know if you guys have done more research into it, like, because I've seen who's at fault, not when I say who's at fault, who was responsible for this almost not being made. I remember seeing the Pixar animation documentary, and from what I understood, it was when Disney owned it, they had a script that was a lot more adult, and Woody was a villain, Woody was the bad guy, he was abusive, he was all these things, and it tested from again, this is the story, you can correct me if you've heard something else. From what I remember from that documentary, I thought they said that when the audience tested it, when they like kind of did test audience stuff or something, people hated that character and they hated it. And it was going to be like done. And then it was a very quick, they had lost either the files or something, and they had to come and kind of reconvene and work around the clock like for 2 weeks straight or something. And they made the version that they kind of wanted where the characters were more likable and Woody was a better guy. And it was an accident with Buzz Lightyear. It wasn't him purposely pushing him off. He wasn't the bad villain guy who was snarky and inappropriate and all these other things. Has anybody heard about that? Or were you going to talk about that, John? Or if I'm jumping ahead, I apologize, but
no. Yeah. I mean, that's
that comment. I was just thinking like they did get it right, but they didn't get it right at first, I guess was what I was going to say.
Yeah. Yeah. No, just, yeah. Kind of what you said, that they had a pretty disastrous preview, and, it just was not, it was not his original vision. I think they were trying to give in to the creative control of Disney, like, way too much. And, I think they got all these notes, and they're like, okay, we gotta do what Disney says. We gotta, make it a little bit more edgy. And yeah, the screening of it was just a complete disaster.
Yeah.
Well, when you look at what Disney was working on at the time too, they were trying to capitalize on the commercial and Oscar success of Beauty and the Beast. They wanted to repeat Best Picture contender, and they wanted stories that would offer a little bit more drama, a little bit more substance, darker tone. So it doesn't surprise me that their first go round with this story bled into that, and I couldn't be happier that it didn't work out that way. Now, it's interesting though, because I still don't find Woody all that appealing of a character. Like, he's still kind of a jerk throughout most of this movie. Like, he does not have a lot of positive qualities when you look at how he treats the other toys. And then especially how he just responds to just his position being challenged, and yeah, he didn't push Buzz out the window, and I'm glad they made that change, didn't make him an all-out villain. But when you look at a lot of how he interacts with a lot of the other toys, how he treats a lot of the other toys, and then again, like I said, especially how he treats Buzz Lightyear for a lot of the film, it's not until they're in Sid's room towards the end and he has his aha moment of, there's something bigger than him. It's not just about him, that he finally starts to become a more likable character.
And I think
so they didn't lose all of the darkness and snarkiness of the character when they rewrote the story. He's still pretty snarky and kind of a jerk.
I think what saves Woody for me is Tom Hanks being the voice. I think if Tom Hanks, I think of Tom Hanks, and every instance of Tom Hanks that I can immediately bring to mind is he's like the nicest guy in Hollywood. And just, I associate his voice with all nice guy roles. Now, I know he hasn't had all nice guy roles, but that's the way I associate that voice. So for me, as an adult, I wouldn't have done that as a kid, but for me as an adult, I watched the movie, and that's probably what saves him. Because watching this time around, I did feel the same thing. I was like, man, I haven't watched this movie in a while. Woody is a lot more of a jerk than I remember him being.
Mm-hmm.
Like not to the point where it was
What I'm saying.
completely off-putting, but enough that I was like, man, I don't remember him being such just a complete jerk to everybody. And I think as an adult, the times I have watched it, being a little bit older, I think it was probably because Tom Hanks was voicing him is what saved him, in my mind at least, from being, seeming like a complete jerk.
Which again goes back to what I think Jeff was saying about Don Rickles or I was also saying too about like how we subliminally or subconsciously, like you said, you interpret it at some point. I know the character is Woody, but at some level of my subconscious, that's also Tom Hanks, and Tom Hanks is kind of like that. He's a really nice guy, but he could also be a little snarky here and there, but it's all with good nature, and he's really a good guy. Like deep down, you're believing he's a good guy. And maybe, like I said, if you go back and just looked objectively through the script and through the not Tom Hanks lens, then you don't feel that way.
Do you think it's possible to go back and look at it with the not Tom Hanks lens?
I think the fact that we're mentioning it, yes. I think the fact that if you go back with that purpose, you can do it. If you go back to enjoy the movie, no. If you go back with literally like a homework assignment, then I'm going to analyze this character and this role and this dialogue and everything he does as not Tom Hanks, and you're fully aware of it, then I think you can kind of get I think that's almost like what John was sort of saying. But if you look at it from that way, yeah. But if you try to just experience the film, yeah, we're probably going to get like that Tom Hanks part villain. It gives him more of a benefit of the doubt being voiced by Tom Hanks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is what I would say.
So you mentioned
it's like the kid in school that's sometimes like that.
Yeah.
The actions might not match, but you're like, oh, but it's that kid. I know he's actually deep down he's a pretty good kid. Yeah. Sometimes we let those kids slide with something they would do. Whereas if you like unfortunately we all go through that little filter lens where, okay, this kid, oh, he's a bad apple, and he does anything. He might do the same thing that the other kid did, but we sometimes kind of want to pull for that other kid because it's like, he's really a good kid. I don't think he means that much by it. So I think we do that the whole time we're watching the film. If you went in objectively and said, I'm not going to do that, then yeah, you can kind of break it down where I think it's more objectively not the greatest character. And I mean, he's not great character, but not the most. I mean, he's like he said, he still has some poor qualities. But I think they did retain some qualities that were a little more positive. I'd hate to see what the original one was. Or actually, I'd like to see what the original one is. Because if that's the thing about the character now, what was it like in that screening and that pre-screening?
What made him so much worse? Yeah.
If he was a villain, horrible, like, and everybody hated him, like, what was that like? Yeah. I wonder if they have any footage of it.
I don't know. Somebody's probably got saved on a hard drive somewhere.
Yep.
So you mentioned the attempted murder, or at least that's what the rest of the toys believe. And after the attempted murder of Buzz, they end up at Pizza Planet, and Andy takes Woody with him to Pizza Planet, and Buzz hitches a ride, and they end up a little stranded and bickering until they grab a ride on the Pizza Planet delivery truck. That leads them to the infamous Pizza Planet restaurant and ultimately to the claw machine. I love these little guys in the claw machine. Like, those might have been, when I was watching this as a kid, that might have been some of my favorite little characters. Oh, the claw is our master. I'm being taken to a better place. Goodbye, my brothers. They end up being won by Sid, the sadistic neighbor that lives next door to Andy, and he takes them back home. Quick question, just based on his mannerisms and based on his look and knowing kind of roughly what this time period is Sid the grandson of Scut Farkus from A Christmas Story?
He could be.
That's my headcanon.
Good.
My headcanon is that Sid is the grandson of Scut Farkus. I don't think he has yellow eyes. God help me, he had yellow eyes.
He had yellow eyes.
A case can be made for that claim, Joe.
I believe so. So he wins them from the claw machine, takes them back home, and we find his room to be a toy graveyard filled with a island of Dr. Moreau of mutant toys. and these just grotesque creations made from dismembering and reassembling other toy parts. Buzz and Woody are terrified. This is where we veer slightly into a horror movie. I wonder how much of that was left over from the original cut, maybe. And they kind of realize they're in a bit of danger here. I think they witness what was his name? Combat Carl gets blown up.
Yep.
Yeah.
Poor Carl. Yeah, there's some other creepy toys in here, like the baby doll head with the spider legs, and he grabs his sister's doll, cuts its head off, and puts a pterodactyl head in its place.
Yeah,
Sounds
they,
kind of funny.
they fix those two and revert them back. The toys do.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, it's a disturbing little kid.
Very much so. He redeems himself somewhat. He shows up in a later film, and he's not that bad of a person.
Okay, all right. I will. So here I'm going to reveal something that might be surprising. I don't know if I've seen anything past Toy Story 2.
Wow.
I'm pretty close to that. I might have seen 3 on a fluke, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I don't think I've seen Toy Story 3. I was trying to remember if I had. I don't think I have.
Yeah, and
Wait a
if I did, it was because I was babysitting like a cousin's kid or something, and it was on. Like I haven't sat down and watched 3.
I remember having like a traumatic experience watching Toy Story 3.
You know
Oh
what?
dear.
There was a pretty rough moment.
Yeah.
where I was just
Yeah,
I was in the theater with Katie and a couple of our friends, and like as adults, we were just looking at each other, going like, "This cannot be how this is going to go. This cannot."
I know
be it. Pat, you know exactly what I'm talking about, don't you?
I know exactly the scene you're talking about
Yeah,
because
like-
I'm trying to think of when Toy
man.
Story 3 came out.
Well, that's
I
how
wonder
I'm
if-
gonna explain why I didn't see it, because there is a black hole of 2 years that I did not see any movies from those years. That would be 2007 when John was born, and Toy Story 3 was released in 2010, which is when Nora was born. So
Okay.
those are black hole years where I didn't see any movies, and sometimes haven't even
So
caught up
you-
to the ones that did come out.
You just never got around to.
I just haven't gotten around to it. Yeah.
and,
I-
and
Yeah,
you
it's
have,
not that I have anything against it, or there's a reason I didn't want to watch it. I kept hearing from
and you
people
have
that it was.
you have
it
Toy
was
Story
amazing.
4 to watch as well.
I know, so I got some catching up to do.
Not as great.
Yeah,
No,
4
that was
was
good.
1, 2, and 3. I
I-
thought I had 3.
I heard
You
three was really good. I just haven't had a chance to see it. but I
Three
heard
would
it's
have
really
been three would have been the perfect ending for the Toy Story
Yes.
series.
good. Okay.
And I think
And-
that's
and-
in my mind maybe why I thought.
And
too,
and,
like,
and when I say perfect, I mean perfect.
yeah,
And
I think I remember. I mean, are you guys, when you refer to being whatever, are you referring to crying in this film? At all?
Well, I don't think we could
Fun.
spoil.
in
what?
which in
3.
which film in 3?
Did you tear up in 3?
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
that's what I remember. That's what I remember, tearing up in 3.
A couple of times. Once when they were facing the thing that I thought was going to be the end, and then again at the actual end.
Yeah,
All right.
Curious.
I gotta-
3 is worth a view for sure. I'm not gonna. I 4 I can't speak. 4 and 5 I never saw. 4 I know. 4 I remember parts of it. I remember the Bonnie. I remember. I don't remember it as well though. So maybe there's a reason for that. 5 I did not see.
Is there?
Yeah,
And I think exactly what Jeff said. I remember I think my feeling was as I was watching 4, I kept thinking, why didn't they just stop it at 3?
Toy
Yeah,
Story.
that's exactly what I was thinking when I was watching 4. Like 4 is not bad, but it was very unnecessary.
Yeah.
It was just unnecessary. Like 3,
Yeah.
3 was perfect. There was
It
no
should have been a
reason-
trilogy, and it should have been that. Should have been it, and you just wrap it up. Boom.
And then 5 is
And
coming
then
out.
it's Dennis. If you've seen Toy Story 5, can you tell me what stocks I should invest in?
I have not seen 5.
You have not
said you
seen.
saw
I know,
5.
but if
No,
you
I,
did,
I saw 4.
okay.
I don't remember much of it. And I'm pretty sure I saw the whole thing, but I couldn't even tell you everything. I just remember that I think it's a Bonnie character. Is it a road trip or something?
Yeah.
That's kind of what I remember of it. I don't remember much of it. 5, I have no idea what 5's about. I don't think I ever saw 5.
It hasn't come out
I
yet.
remember being at the
Honestly,
theater.
I don't think 5 exists yet, does it?
Yeah, 5,
No, it's
5
not
hasn't come out yet.
Next year.
There is no 5 out, but there is going to be a 5.
I believe it's going to have to do with the idea of the toys fighting against the fact that kids are too interested in screen time.
Is there a
No
trailer?
longer. No.
No.
Just-
Why?
just
I
story-
just
just
words
story
of
ideas.
Toy Story 5 in the making. I remember seeing something about it, and I just remember I've never
Yeah.
seen
Yeah,
it.
it's still like a year and a half away.
2026. It's saying yes. Okay.
Going to be.
So there's
taken
a cover for it, but there's no. Yeah.
But anyway, John and Bo, you guys need to watch 3.
Yeah, I need to get caught up.
Please don't wait until we cover that one on the pod.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I need to go watch 3. So
Yeah.
Bring the
See you.
lights down low, it's
Peace
time
out,
to
guys.
show.
We'll,
Lights, camera,
how many times are we gonna end this one tonight?
I don't
This is
know.
good.
So they end up back at Sid's house, and Buzz ends up seeing a TV commercial for a Buzz Lightyear action figure, which shatters his whole illusion that he is a real space ranger. He tries to fly out the window, only to plummet to the ground, breaking his arm, and in the process, becoming
That is a sad scene.
becoming Mrs. Nesbit.
That is a sad scene.
It is a sad scene.
When he's struggling, realizing that he is a toy, and he's not who he thought he was, and
Yeah.
like, you know, one last go at being Buzz Lightyear and jumping to that window and failing miserably
Breaking your arm off.
and breaking his arm off, and then he becomes Mrs. Nesbit, which I do enjoy the Mrs. Nesbit stuff. There's so many throwaway lines
Oh,
in
yeah.
that whole Mrs. Nesbit stuff they're pretty funny.
Yeah.
They are pretty funny.
Sucking down Darjeeling.
With
Yeah.
Marie Antoinette and her
Yeah.
sister. Don't you get it? Do you see the hat? Mrs. Nesbit.
Oh.
The apron's a bit much.
Yeah.
The apron's a bit much.
I do. I think we've already passed my favorite line of Buzz Lightyear's, and that is when he's talking to Woody, and he says, "You, so what is it? You are a sad, strange little man, and you have my pity."
You're a sad, strange little man.
I feel like I've said that. I feel like I've said that to my kids once or twice.
I think I've said that to my students every now and again.
Oh yeah.
You're a sad, strange little man, and just walk away.
Yeah. Oh, they don't even have your pity?
No.
Oh, okay. All right. So Woody kind of gives him a pep talk. Despite them being rivals up to this point, he recognizes that he's in a bit of a dark place. So he reminds Buzz that even though he's not a space ranger, he is still a toy. He has a purpose, and his purpose is to make Andy happy. And
Well, it's also in this part that we see almost, I think, the darkest part of Woody's character. Because if you recall, when they're in Sid's room trying to escape, Woody's like, use your karate chop action. And he starts making Buzz do the karate chop.
oh yeah.
And then he gets to the door, gets to the bedroom door, and he just drops Buzz. Like Buzz collapses on the floor and Woody just takes off, leaves Buzz behind.
Yeah.
And it's just like at that moment, you're like, God, you really are a horrible, I don't want to say person, horrible character. Like there's nothing redeeming about you, but it does make the redemption, the realization of how important Buzz is, I guess that much more sweet, because you see just how much he didn't care at that point in the movie.
Yeah.
And like we said, with Tom Hanks doing the voice, I think it makes it a bit more palpable to at least accept that from that character. Because in the back of your mind, subconsciously, like Dennis was saying, subconsciously, you know that's Tom Hanks, and you can't really hate Tom Hanks. So you're willing to accept that from the character. But yeah, I mean, that's just it's a horrible move from Woody to just use Buzz completely in that way and then just drop him on the floor and take off running.
So Sid tapes Buzz to a firework rocket, planning to blow him up. Woody, with the help of the mutant toys, enacts a plan, and they decide to come to life in front of Sid, even though this is usually a big no-no for the toys. Moving on their own and making some eerie sounds, Sid, completely freaked out, screams and runs away, vowing never to hurt toys ever again. Then we end up with the chase to the moving truck. Woody and Buzz race against time to catch Andy's moving truck. Scud, Sid's bull terrier, chases them. Buzz ends up sacrificing himself, initially staying behind to distract Scud, while Woody makes it onto the truck. The other toys, still believing Woody is a murderer, end up throwing off the truck. And then we have the rocket rescue, where Woody finds the remote control car RC and uses him to get back to Buzz. They end up riding him towards the moving truck, and realizing their mistake, the other toys try to help them. RC's batteries die, leaving them stranded in the road. Woody then makes a desperate decision to ignite the rocket strapped to Buzz so they can get back to the truck faster. Buzz opens his wings at the last second, detaching himself from the rocket, soaring through the air with Woody, falling in style, as you will. And they end up back in the truck, and everything is all good. Everything is all fine. Then we fast forward to a scene with Christmas morning. Back in Andy's room at the new house, the toys are listening as Andy opens up his Christmas presents. Mr. Potato Head is thrilled to receive a Mrs. Potato Head. And I always just like that funny little almost throwaway line, "I got to shave." And he just pulls off the mustache.
Way to go, Idaho.
Way to go, Idaho. Yeah. Woody and Buzz kind of share a bit of a knowing glance that they are now friends and everything is good. And they wonder, what present could possibly be worse than Buzz. Then Andy opens a box, and it contains a puppy. And that is the end of the movie.
They put a puppy in a box.
What's in the box?
A puppy.
A puppy. Man, 7 would be different if that was the answer.
Right?
If he was like, "What's in the box?"
Oh, it's a puppy.
Don't look. Don't look at it. And then he opens. Oh, look, it's a puppy. That's a totally different movie.
Totally.
Yeah.
Completely different movie.
I kind of want to see that movie now. All right, it's time for some deep thoughts.
And now, Deep Thoughts.
I have an opinion on this matter.
Don't mince words, Bones. What do you really think?
I like it a lot.
Wow. It's very deep. Thank you.
All right, so maybe my only question for the deep thoughts part, and we can kind of go off for a little bit on that, is, and maybe it's not even just about this movie, but it's about the Toy Story movies in total, but focusing on this one. What is it about this movie? I know that on the surface, one of the things that makes this appealing to everybody of all ages is that it's about toys. And everybody at some point has a favorite toy. Everybody played with toys. I mean, it's something we all can remember. There's the nostalgia piece of the toy part of it. Other than that, if you take away the nostalgia piece of the toys, what is it that really works for you about this movie and this series of movies?
I think it's the idea that it kind of taps into that idea of the toys being real things. 'Cause I remember having those thoughts when I was a kid. Like, wouldn't it be great if my toys came to life? Or I wonder if, when nobody's looking.
What do they do all day when I'm at work or school?
Yeah. So like the idea that this movie presented that as this is what toys do when nobody's around. We never know it because they become toys again, which I also feel is a loophole, not a loophole, a plot hole for this movie. With Buzz.
Oh, because he doesn't think he's a toy?
He doesn't believe he's a toy, but yet when Andy's coming, he freezes and acts like a toy.
Yeah.
He doesn't question it at all. No questioning of why do we do this? It's just, okay, I'm just going to freeze. But it's nitpicky.
Yeah.
So I would say maybe the connection is just the fact that, like, we spend our whole childhood with all our toys pretending that they're alive. So to see them actually come alive, or like the possibility that they might have been alive, is a fulfilling thing. Because you don't have to pretend at that point. It's like we're just enjoying them having lives and characters, and I don't know. That's what I would think. Because you spend your whole time pretending, like you said, that these guys are alive, and you have to make them do things in your imagination. And now you can let your imagination take a break and just watch them actually, like, see, I was right all along. I don't know.
It taps into that sort of nostalgia thing.
It totally taps into childhood 100%. So it's a complete nostalgia thing. Like, there's a scene from the movie. I don't know why it gives me the same vibe of like an adult going back and watching that movie. There's so many scenes that give me the vibe from a movie called My Life with Michael Keaton, the one where he's dying.
Oh yeah.
And when he goes into that brick outside the house and he discovers the parachute man.
Yes.
There's just something about that scene is very Toy Story-ish to me. Like, it just the look on his face, it's like he becomes a kid again. and he throws it up in the air and it's coming down, and then the other girl's there, and they show the hiding space, and he talks about where he hid when he was a kid in a little cubby, and but like just that moment where he find, because I guarantee you if I went back to my house in Cicero, the old house, there's stuff buried in the back by the garage. There's some characters. We're gonna find some war guys, like the war guys that are in Toy Story. The green guys, the little green monster guys, and all, or not monster guys, soldier guys, like they're there. They're in the back spot of land where we used to build moats, and like I'm sure there's some buried treasure there that we have that's still there. So I think that connection to our childhood is like really what makes it so special. And I don't know if it's also sad because I don't know if kids today will have that same connection. I mean, obviously, Jeff, your kids will. I think John, like ours, I'm saying like the newer upcoming generations, do they have those same toys and that same long relationship with toys? Or are they going to be the toys forgotten because they've gone to an iPad at age 4?
Well, that's the premise of upcoming Toy Story 5.
Yeah.
Is the fact that kids are more interested in screens than they are playing with actual toys.
Yeah. Yes.
So it'd be very interesting to see how they craft that into a bigger story.
Yeah.
I would be curious to see, and I don't know, again, having not seen 3 or 4, I wonder if there's, because we've said there are some jokes and there are some commentaries in these movies that are there for the adults. Have they in any of the movies, or I'd be curious if they do this in Toy Story 5, have they ever commented on the idea that if you go to like Target or Walmart or somewhere like that now to go to the toy section, so many of the action figures like a Buzz Lightyear or a Woody or something like that, the action figure type things, are more for the collector than they are for actual kids.
To play with, yeah.
Like my kids are old enough now, they're not playing with toys, but if we go and sometimes me as the big kid will go through the toy aisle and I'll look and like, oh, look, there's a new Superman action figure, there's a new Batman one, but they're $25 a piece, and they're pretty much there for collectors. They're not really there for kids. Have they ever commented on any of that? Because I know that's... Well,
wasn't that a big component of the second movie?
I was going to say that was a big deal. In the
was that partly in the second? Okay.
Is Al from Toy Barn was trying to collect all of the figures from the old TV. You find out that it's an old TV show called
That's
Woody's
right.
Roundup.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. Yeah, it's been a long time since I've seen the second one.
He's trying to get all those pieces together as a collection to sell to a museum in, I think, Japan.
Okay.
I think that was the destination there. And one of the pieces is supposedly mint in box, right? The Prospector is
never been opened.
Yeah.
Never been opened.
And just like this movie, I mean, the deeper, and I suppose I shouldn't start commenting on the second one. I should answer your question you asked for the first one. But just like that, in the second movie, there's a deeper story with do you play with the toy or keep it in the box?
Yeah.
Becomes a proxy for how do you stay relevant as the world changes around you. I mean, it's like an Inception level of concept, Inception level of plot point. I don't know what I'm trying to put my finger on it. Meaning or subtext or commentary in these movies. There's, you're being incepted. There's layer upon layer of commentary that's happening in these movies. And I don't know, Bo, did you get a chance to answer, why you think the movies, the Toy Story, before I launch into my spiel that's going to get me in trouble?
I think I kind of tagged on earlier to just the fact that it's what the toys do when you're not there, right? Like you, as a kid especially, and I think we kind of keep it maybe buried as an adult, but there's always this thought of what's happening at home when I'm not there. Like, you get older, we have pets, and we know the pets are walking around doing things, but what are they doing when we're not there? And I think that's similar. So, it's really everything everyone's already said. And the other thing that makes this movie work are the voices they chose. Like, we've talked about that too. Like, It's a little bit about the mystique of what the toys are doing when you're not there and the fact that they have their own lives and the voices.
I also like the fact that the purpose that the toys all serve, right? They all know that they're there to make their owner happy. They're there to be there for whoever it is that owns them. And that becomes more prevalent as the movies go on, that, we are here, whatever it is, we are Andy's toys. We are here for Andy. We are here to make sure Andy is okay. We are here to look out for Andy and be the thing that he needs when he needs a thing. And that I would argue plays into the third movie quite a bit when, you're faced with the question of, what do I do with these things when I feel I no longer need them? But I'm so attached to them.
So it's interesting. You guys were talking about this movie and how it worked, and you guys all like really seem to hone in on the toys and the nostalgia and all that kind of thing. And it's really funny because I don't think I've ever seen this movie through the lens of the focal point being the toys. It's funny. I kind of forgot that they were toys. And I'm not saying that you guys didn't. I'm not trying to put words in your mouth. But I always saw it.
Are we about to get some more Patreon supporters now? Because you're.
Oh God, yeah, there it is.
Toy Story, and you hate toys.
Yeah, that's it. I hate toys. But I never saw it as they were toys. I saw the toys was the vehicle, right, to be fun and to tick the nostalgia boxes and all that. But I really saw it as, like this incredible character arc. Woody to me was never a bad guy. He was like, he did some pretty rotten stuff, but he was struggling. And he actually says that to Buzz when he has that soliloquy, and, he's sitting there talking to Buzz, and Buzz has kind of given up on life, and he's going through his own, crisis and strapped to the rocket. And, Woody's trying to tell him, like, I forget the line, but he was just like, I was there, Woody or Andy cared about me and I cared about him, perhaps too much. And it talks about his struggle. And it's like, I mean, like I've experienced that. We've seen that play out 100 times. I mean, think of the movie Father of the Bride. Like, that's a whole cornerstone of that. He's the dad and his daughter loves him and this is all great. But then all of a sudden she's grown up and there's someone else and he's got to sacrifice that. And he does some pretty, like he does some pretty crazy things in that movie, being driven because he wants to, maintain the status quo. He wants to be the number one. And that's kind of what I saw with Woody. And then like the Buzz Lightyear character, you think you're one thing, but you're not. You're not that superhero space ranger that you think you are. And you guys are right, man. That scene where he tries to fly, the music, everything that just comes together. And then when he falls, and then holy moly, that camera pans out and his arm's off. I mean, I know it's just a toy, but when you see that, you're just like, what is this rated? Does this guy just get dismembered? And then the look on Buzz's face when he looks, and then later when he's sitting there and you can tell he's just crushed. And Woody talks to him, and I think it's raining outside, and they're waiting for Sid to come back, and Buzz just kind of looks up at Woody, and then just looks away, like he's just done. He's given up. And Woody talks to him about, like, like you said, the importance of being a toy. Yeah, you're not just a toy. This is what you do for kids. There's nothing better than bringing joy and happiness to a kid. I mean, it's like, these are like, it's like powerful concepts that they're going through here and character arcs. And I think cycling back, I hear what you're saying about, Tom Hanks, you hear that voice and that just immediately triggers, okay, I can trust this guy. But I almost wonder if for me, it's like that character arc that they go through, that's what makes them redeeming is in many ways, it makes them a really great shades of gray character in a kid's movie nonetheless. But like, here's a guy that gave into jealousy and gave into, he wanted to be in charge and he was arrogant, and now something shook him to his core, but he was able to fight through that and become a better person for it. Right. Like, you get all this in a kid's movie. And that's what I think, kind of going back to why it plays for adults is, you know, boy, that's pretty powerful stuff. I mean, that's stuff that you go through as an adult. And, you know, we're watching this in a kid's movie. And I don't want to get too far into, like, you know, I don't mean this as a roast on other animated films, but, you know, you look at some of the other films that we've watched in this year and the last year and all that, and you compare it to Toy Story and what they're doing in Toy Story. And it's kind of like, okay, this feels kind of kid-like. You know what I'm saying? Because in Toy Story, we're dealing with these concepts of, you know, betrayal, falling, committing a crime, being evil, coming back and, you know, improving yourself, then rescuing the next guy, right? He wasn't quite there yet. You know, it almost like it was like a Groundhog Day thing. Okay, Woody's going to help Buzz get out with his, you know, karate chop action. And then, like you said, Jeff, he gets to the door and just chucks him to the side. You're not going to escape that way. You're still stuck in purgatory. You haven't become that better person yet. When you're ready to put Buzz first, okay, then that's when working together, that's when they're able to do that.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's like Woody has to have that understanding that two things can be true at the same time.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I can still be enjoyed. I can still be part of Andy's life without having to be the part of Andy's life. I can make room for someone else. I have to make room for somebody else. Otherwise, I'm done.
Right.
I need to allow myself to step aside. You know, so I think it's a very sweet moment when he pleads with the toys of Sid's room, saying, "Look, there's a boy over there that needs us. There's a boy over there that needs Buzz Lightyear. You have to help us, not for my sake, not for Buzz's sake, but for Andy's sake."
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, and it's like
once he has that growth, you know, he becomes a much more redeeming character and a lot more easy to root for, because you don't see him making the sacrifices. He's not sacrificing others for the sake of himself. He's willing to do whatever he has to help the other people around him that are important to him.
Yeah. It's serving something greater than yourself. And when he realizes that that's the secret of life, that's the bigger thing. Like, and again, I mean, listen to what we're talking about. If we took out the names, would we be thinking that we're talking about a kid's movie, right? I mean, but it is a kid's movie because it's fun and it triggers and simultaneously, like you said, two things can be true. Well, it's serving what we're talking about here. It's also ticking all those nostalgia boxes. And I remember doing that. I mean, I remember playing where, okay, I didn't have the complete set of any toys. So this guy had to be the main character. And then the evil Dr. Porkchop, I'll grab this. This will be the bad guy. And, you know, you mix and match different toy things. I mean, so I remember doing that. But yeah, that's the piece of this that is so, you know, it's so important. And it's funny, of all things, I was listening to this podcaster, and he writes books and all that. And he talks about leadership, and his thing about being a leader, he's like, yeah, the leader isn't necessarily the one that's in charge, that just bosses everybody around. And you're going to run up in times when someone else might have a way that they think that they should accomplish whatever the task is. It might not be your way, but like a person that is a good leader, whether they're designated or not, is someone willing to say, hey, you know what? That's not my plan, but the goal is the same. I'm going to take a step back and I'm going to do everything I can to support that other person. It might not be my way, but you know what? The goal is we have a shared goal, and we can't be butting heads and succeed. And you almost see that play out. Like you just said, we need to see Andy happy. Me not being the number one Buzz Lightyear in the special, you know, bedspread with the Buzz Lightyear pajama, you know, bedspread and everything. That's not my way. But what's my overall goal? To be the number one or to see Andy happy? And when he realized that the goal was to see Andy happy, that's where he could take the step back and say, we're going to do this together. I mean, it's just like, I mean, I just,
and that's what makes these Pixar films so incredible, is because you don't see that coming from an animated, what you would presume to be an animated kids movie, right? You don't expect this much layering of ideas and themes. So when it does, like, I remember struggling being able to articulate this aspect of it especially when it first came out.
Well, it was still new. We weren't used to that level of
yeah. I mean,
discourse in a kid's movie, for lack of a better word. Like,
I mean, it really raised the bar of what the quote unquote animated movie could do.
Yeah.
Right. And that's not to say that other animated movies hadn't challenged some of that before, but nothing on this level. And then for Pixar to keep doing it again and again and again and again, every time out the box, it makes that Pixar collection of movies just very special.
Oh, man, they're so good. They're so good.
I wanted to make sure we had a chance before we go to 3 questions. I want to make sure we had a chance to talk a little bit about the music in the movie. We'll talk, one of my favorite things, one of my favorite little Easter eggy type things, is that at the beginning of the movie, it's Randy Newman singing the song, and then you get to I think it's in the end credits. Now that Andy has 2 favorite toys, you have Randy Newman and Lyle Lovett singing a duet of the song.
That's awesome.
That was kind of a fun detail.
Yeah.
Let me catch that.
Well, I think we all, I also want to mention just the idea or the concept of a fully computer animated movie, right? Because when you think back, it was only a couple years ago that we were talking about Jurassic Park,
right?
And utilizing computer animation for 12 minutes of the film.
Yeah.
And now here we are just a few years later, and they're like, look what we can do with a computer.
Right.
And just, I remember walking out of the movie theater with my family, and I turned to my dad. I'm like, what was that? Like, that was just amazing.
That looked different.
And we went, I'm pretty sure, I know I went back to see it again. I don't remember if my dad came with me or not, but we were both just kind of like, wow, look at what they were able to do.
Yeah. There was a funny thing I read online somewhere that said, if you look at all of Andy's friends at his birthday party, they all look exactly like Andy, which is why you don't see them for very long. They use the same head model for every single one of Andy's friends. And so they took that to its logical conclusion. They said, you know why Andy doesn't have a dad? Because he's running around the neighborhood making more Andys.
Oh,
yikes.
Like, oh, that's a little...
that's going to a new level.
That's a new level, yeah.
What was it, though, what was it with Andy's friends when he's just like, what's this package? It's opening up. It's socks. Repeat, socks. Or was something is like...
Who invited that guy?
Who invited that kid? Yeah.
One was, so I remember, because a few years back, when I first introduced this movie to Thomas, I think he was probably 3 at the time, maybe 3.5, and it became a daily viewing. Every day we watched Toy Story, and I was okay with it. But after watching a movie a couple of times, or a lot more than a couple, you start really getting nitpicky with some of the right. Like you're realizing, like, why is Buzz behaving like that if he doesn't believe that he's a toy? Why is he, but like the kids at the birthday party, like, they mentioned a kid brought a lunchbox, and then another kid brought bed sheets as a gift.
Yeah.
And like, that's a kid I turned to my wife and I was like, God, who brings bed sheets as a gift at a kid's birthday?
Bed sheets.
That's
were
when
they rubber?
That's when you know that the mom did the shopping.
Right? It's just like, wow.
Yeah.
But I feel like this is a very special movie for a lot of reasons. One, because of the computer animation. 2, all-star cast in an animated film, which, Disney had been tinkering with just a couple films prior by starting to pull, like, Robin Williams, and then Lion King had a number of bigger names involved. But this movie was just like, hey, here's everyone that is the guy in Hollywood right now. I mean, to have Tom Hanks at the time of doing movies like Philadelphia, to have Tim Allen at the height of, coming off of doing Home Improvement, these were big gets, and they have even the, just the supporting cast that they have. Like these weren't any slouches of actors just doing bit parts. And then you look at the layers of, in the story, all of it, it works so well together, all of it. And, it didn't, Pixar goes for a long time before they have anything that could be considered a miss.
All right. So we got anything else before we jump into 3 questions?
Yeah, real quick. Dennis, go ahead. I'm sorry, man. Go ahead.
Go, Pat. Go.
Okay, just real quick. When Woody jumps on the moving truck and throws the RC car out, and they're all like, "He's doing it again! Get him!" And they throw him out, and he jumps on RC, and then they're coming up with the rocket, and then they're like something like, "Look, Woody was telling the truth," and the dinosaur goes, "Oh no! Now I have guilt."
That's one of my favorite lines.
I know.
Oh my God! Is it?
Now I have guilt.
Now I have guilt.
And the thing is if that line had been said in the first part of the movie, it wouldn't be near as funny because the character and you know that type of character. And I remember that was like a spit take, laugh until you're crying. I remember my mom was laughing until she was crying. My dad has having a belly laugh. Like every time we see that, I was like, that was a cool experience. We all saw it as a family. And I'm sitting there looking like, oh my God, mom, dad laughing. I'm laughing. My younger brother's laughing. My sister's like, we're all. That line was absolutely perfect. Oh no! Now I have guilt. I love it.
The line that gets me every time, and it doesn't matter how many times I've seen this movie, and it's even just such a funny little just kind of throwaway thing. But the one that gets me every single time, because somehow I'm not expecting it, is when the squeeze toy shark pops up with the cowboy hat on and goes, "I'm a cowboy. Howdy, howdy, howdy." Like every single time, I'm like, I lose it because for some reason I forget that's coming, and then it just happens so fast that I'm just like I do a spit take nearly every single time.
It's just so good, this movie. It's just so well done.
It's just, it's got just the best type of humor.
Yeah.
Throughout.
It's one of those movies that on the list of remakes, you never remake this movie. Even though there's been 2 and 3, I'm saying like you never make a remake of the movie. It had everything perfect, timing, everything.
You don't do the modern Disney thing of having this be a live action with real Tom Hanks and real Tim Allen. And
yeah.
That'd be interesting.
Okay.
Things I was.
Who would you get to play real Buzz and real Woody today?
Tom Hanks and
Tim Allen. Yeah.
Okay. No.
Easy.
I'd put all the actors in their roles.
No,
I'd go find Wallace Shawn a T-Rex suit.
That guy.
Yeah, I'd get Wallace Shawn a T-Rex suit and put him inside of it. It's one of those inflatable T-Rex suits you get for Halloween.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Don Rickles.
Wallace Shawn to do it. I mean, that's the thing.
Hilarious.
He's a gamer.
Mr. Potato Head is gonna be a tough one though.
Well,
yeah, that'd be a challenge.
Slinky Dog would be a challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I was just throwing in 2 little just extra points about like inspiration for the film, and then also kind of a brief, quick question for you guys because I always am interested, like when you first saw this movie and how old you were. I mean, I was 24. So I'm 24 when I saw this movie. So it's kind of like I'm already moved out of childhood. I'm already like into, college baseball, finishing up college at that point, actually 24. Because I had worked for a couple of years when I was younger. But so I just was curious. You guys are all a little bit younger, not too much, but a little bit younger. You're catching up. The years are getting less and less.
They'll always be ahead of us there, buddy.
Yeah, but now at some point I think I passed because I remember I'm going backwards after 50.
Ah, yes, I forgot.
Currently 47. I'll be 46 next year. I can't
Dennis Button.
Can't wait till I'm 21 again.
This is Dennis's version of Toy Story is the prequel where everything's made out of corn cobs. all the toys are made out of sticks, corn cobs, and human hair.
So my question is so 2 things, the inspiration for the movie. I think of 2 films or 2, not really films, but 2 TV shows, or I think they're both TV. And I don't know if you've seen I would guess that some of you have seen these. Twilight Zone, 5 characters in search of an exit. made me automatically think when I would show this to my class, because I would occasionally show this one at the class around Christmas time or whatever. And I just thought kids would say, like, is this like, it's kind of like Toy Story. And I'm like, well, yeah, I mean, it is, but it isn't. It's like toys that were live, but don't know they're live, like that whole thing. And then when they come out of I mean, I shouldn't spoil the Twilight Zone episode, but we said spoiler alert anyway for everybody. But the Twilight Zone, that one, I feel like there's some inspiration there for that being the original thing of these toys that have a life when we're not looking. And when we are looking, they're just frozen and thrown back in the donation pile. And then the other one was, John, have you seen Jim Henson's, I think it's called a Christmas Toy, or have you ever seen that? 1985, 86?
It sounds familiar.
It's you can stream it. I'm pretty sure still, because I've seen it on the other places. Let me look it up. I want to say it's called A Christmas Story, but the Jim Henson one, I thought maybe you would know that one right, because I know you're a pretty decent Jim Henson fan.
It looks familiar. If I've seen it, it's been a really long time, but it looks familiar.
Okay, yeah. So it's like that's an interesting one. You guys probably, I think it's only less than an hour. I think it was me. I want to say it was on TV. I saw that back then too. So it's kind of like
1986 television film.
Yes, 86. Okay, yeah. So that one is so I'm like 13, 14 at that 14 or 14 or 15 at that age or whatever. And I remember seeing that, and again, when Toy Story came out, they just perfected everything. So there's these little kind of like, I wonder if John Lasseter, if whoever, the writers of this would be like, okay, here were some things we thought of when we were kids, and like this movie made me think of this, and then they just took that idea and just perfected it with technology, with the story, with everything, and the characters and the cast. So they kind of put it all together. But I would bet that those might be two inspirational pieces that maybe put the idea in their head for this film. Just throwing that out there. Yeah, but then the other one is like, where were you guys at? Were you still kid? How old were you guys? I don't know what the age difference in everybody is.
Let's see, 95.
Kids still.
Yeah, I was in 8th grade or freshman in high school, right, John? Depending on what time of year.
Yeah, we would have been freshmen.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're kind of like Toy Story 3. Putting some of those to, well, no, as I look behind John, you have not reached that stage yet.
No.
What month did this come out?
November.
In 95? November. So I would have been November 95. I'd have been 17, senior year. And then I went with my folks and my younger brother, and he would have been, I was 17, he'd have been 6. So it was very interesting dynamic, I remember, because him being at that age versus me being at the age I was, watching him watch this movie about toys that come to life versus me already having some of that nostalgic feeling about some of the toys in the movie.
Yeah, and that's why I'm just posing the question, just because when I saw this movie, I'm already past the stage of Andy with the toys, and I'm just embedded into baseball and life and wanting to get out of college and get a job and start working and making money, and baseball dream over. And I just remember where I was at, but like that toy part I wasn't so distant from it that the nostalgia was there for Toy Story for the first one. And I wasn't, so I was kind of like in between the two worlds of that. When I saw 3, now it's old man, childhood nostalgia is stronger, where it wasn't as strong. So I was just wondering, when you guys saw it, you were still kind of kids, so just a different experience of when you saw this, because in a way we're all Andy. And at what stage when you saw this film, do you experience that film in a different way because you're Andy at Andy's age when the movie, or are you, Andy 30 years from now? And that ties into the way I think you experience it, how emotional it might be, or how much it makes you tear up, or melancholy and nostalgia and all that. So
I think for me, we would have seen this. I want to say it would have been right as I was turning 15, because if it came out like Thanksgiving week of 95, my birthday's early December. And I remember exactly where I saw it. In fact, I looked it up to remember what the name was. It was the Al Ringling Theater in Baraboo, Wisconsin. It was one of the co-founders of the Ringling Brothers Circus, built it back in early 1900s, and it's a really cool old school theater. It looks like an old European opera house, kind of a deal. I mean, real opulent looking, like, gold leaf on everything, and it was just I remember a beautiful theater. And I think one of the benefits I had was, yes, I was 15, so the toy thing at that point, I didn't care quite as much about the whole idea of toys and playing with toys. But my siblings were 3 years younger than me and 8 years younger than me. So I mean, we were going to see it together as a family, and I had a sibling that was still, but at that point, 7 years old, and so still very much not that I was watching it in that way, but I was watching it with family that would have been more in the realm of being that age and playing with those kind of toys. And
that's why it's kind of nice to see Jeff and you having your son there at the beginning of this episode and coming out and talking. That's what made me kind of think about this question. Is I'm like, there's a kid who got to experience Toy Story as a kid. Such a different experience than me experiencing Toy Story as a 24-year-old. Yeah. It's just it's just interesting the way we process movies and the excitement in his face and kind of that cool sort of like it's very interesting.
And I mean, it's one of his favorite movies.
Yep. As a kid, I would think you would, it's like what you're dreaming.
What's not to love about it?
Exactly.
There's enough there to understand about it. We got kind of deep with our discussion on it, but the surface level story is entertaining enough that there's enough there for a kid who's now 5, 6, 7. My 5.5-year-old loves this movie as well. Yep. He first saw it probably a year and a half ago, but he loves this movie as well. And and they get it on that superficial level, or the surface level, of just the plot of the movie, without really thinking about those deeper things. And then over time, we'll be able to start having more conversations about some of the deeper ideas expressed in the movie. So I'm looking forward to those opportunities with my boys to be able to talk about, like, well, let's go back and watch this again, but now let's think about this as we're watching.
Well, that's just the interesting thing about just movies in general now is that they're at our fingertips. We can kind of watch them, and if you're a parent, you can kind of plan out when, that was one of the interesting things that I kept always struggling with. When do I show my kid this movie? When do I show him that movie? When do I show? It was kind of fun doing that, but also stressful because it was like, am I showing it too soon? Am I showing it where he's not going to enjoy it? Like we didn't have an option. It came out at the theater when it came out at the theater. And I always think, like, I was a kid when Star Wars came out, I was at that perfect age where this is just like, whoa. And I'm just thinking my parents, while my dad liked the movie, there's no way his experience could be exactly what mine was as a kid. And he had no option, but then there's other movies that I'm sure he saw. Like, he always still talks about the movie, The Thing. Like, he would go nuts about The Thing, like the original Thing movie. And it was like, when he would talk about that, he tells me about where he was at and what movie theater he went. And I remember him just telling, like, and he becomes almost like a little, like a teenage kid at that point at the movie theater, catching the double features and stuff and seeing The Thing and how he was like, oh, so it's interesting just when we see movies and how it totally shapes your experience of and lasting memory of it. That first impression you can never get back. So,
well, and this is one of the reasons why, as we revisit movies for our 10th anniversary or our 10th year, one of the reasons why I put Who Framed Roger Rabbit on the list is because I've been struggling with whether or not I want to show it to my boys, because are they going to get out of it what I got out of it?
Yeah.
Probably not, because what they watch now is, it'd be they're being mesmerized by the live action and animation together wouldn't mean anything to them based on what they have access to all day, every day now.
It's not groundbreaking for them.
Yeah.
So, they're not going to have the response to it that I had, that's what made me so excited to show it to them, was like, oh my God, this movie was so formative for me and for my love of film in general. I can't wait to show this. I can't wait to show this to them. And then, I haven't yet because I'm at that point where I'm like, but are they going to care about it the way I do?
Well, that's kind of where when I say stressful, I mean, it's not like you're stressed, but it's like that kind of worry or stress of like, I remember one of my biggest kind of worries, and and I would say that I don't know how many I got right or how many I got wrong when I showed them, but you'd watch a film and sometimes the reception was lukewarm from them, and you're going, God, I love this movie as a kid, and they just were pretty much saying it was like, and I would then question myself: did I show it too late? Did I show it too soon?
I feel like there's that sweet spot. It's you can either get them, they're either too young to appreciate it, or you reach a point where they're like, nah, I got other things to go do.
Yep, or they've moved on past
everything. I missed it.
It's black and white.
Yeah. And I'm sure they'll come back later. Like, I'm sure it'll swing back around again at some point. There'll be another little phase where they might be, but at that point, then are they still living in the house?
Yeah, I mean, it's like
I lucked out with ET. I showed the boys ET not too long ago.
Oh, nice.
They were.
It's probably a good age for that. Even TV shows, like my daughter right now is like my daughter's doing a Seinfeld. She's going through all the Seinfeld seasons. But I specifically remember showing her Seinfeld. I would say, I mean, she's 23 now. I would say she was probably about 16, 17, somewhere in high school. I showed her that a couple episodes, and she was like, yeah, it's not that good. And now she's sitting there watching every episode cracking up. So it's like,
she probably relate to it a lot more.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. So like I showed that too soon then, I'm guessing, and I'm like, when did I watch Seinfeld? So you try to go by when you watched it, and that could be a sort of starting point. But if I were to say Toy Story, I wouldn't be going, I'm going to wait till they're 24 to show Toy Story. I definitely saw that way too late. And I'm kind of jealous of your kid because he's seeing it at the age that I wish I would have seen Toy Story. I'm glad I saw it. I'm glad I saw it at any age. But I'm saying, like, that's that sweet spot for there. And you could almost pinpoint that as a parent of when you see those things. And again, like Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back, getting up for school, seeing the morning news, talking about the release of Empire Strike Back that upcoming weekend. Oh my God. Like, it was just like, I still remember the snow outside. I remember like when there was that news, there was an article. I remember the morning, and it's just one of those things where it's like, you just were at the perfect age for Star Wars. And so in that way I was blessed. I got to see Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back at literally the perfect time that I would pick, where my dad didn't get that, and he loved it, but he didn't get that. He didn't get I think the perfect age for it. And I'm guessing there's a perfect age. And I would say, what is the perfect age for Toy Story? Luckily, it could be pretty much to a certain degree, anybody's going to enjoy it. But what would be the prime, age for it? Would be your son's age to see this movie? Is that the perfect sweet spot? I don't know. Just a thought.
I think it depends on what you want to get out of the film.
Yeah.
Right. Like if I want to be able to have a more intellectual conversation with my kids about the deeper themes of this movie, then 6 years old, 5
isn't
years
going
old,
to get there. Yeah.
Isn't the age to show it to them. But did I have a feeling that they were going to really get a kick out of watching toys come to life and then planting that seed that maybe this is what happens with toys when we're not looking?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
and how you treat your toys.
Yeah, like that became a very fun part of watching the movie and being able to think of it from that angle. Like, what is it about their age that is going to that this movie is going to resonate with them?
John, when did your kid see it? When did you show it to him? Do you know about? You're muted or something.
Oh, there we go. They were probably, I'll say maybe like 5, 6, somewhere around there.
So even,
yeah. John would have been about 5 or 6. I think Nora, we probably watched it again maybe a couple years later, so she would have probably been roughly around the same age. I'd say probably somewhere between like 5 and 8 when they first saw it.
Pat, would you say the same for you?
Yeah, I mean, I remember we definitely saw 3 in the theater I think with Dominic. We definitely went to the 4th one as a family. Yeah, as soon as we started watching movies, Dominic had all the Woody and Buzz characters, and we had all the Toy Story characters, and so I mean, whenever we started movies, Toy Story was one of the first one. And then we were just reminded, how awesome it was.
So now I think when they're older, those kids, all your kids, because they saw it during kind of a sort of a sweet, innocent spot of 5 to 8 years old, what's the experience going to be when they rewatch this when they're 45 or 50? Because now you have the nostalgia for the toys, but you also now have a connection to the movie being younger. So there's like a double sort of like, we're just going back to the toys. They have the movie and the toy experience to kind of, now I'm older and wow, that was a part of my life and how much fun that was. And a little bit of a kind of bittersweet Toy Story 3 thing. But yeah.
A second, and I want to go on the record as saying I like Toy Story 4. I mean, get into rating them and ranking them and all that one. It was a fun message. There was fun characters. I loved Keanu. It was I thought it was a good bit of fun. Someone at one point said the question they asked is how you treat your toys. Can we just talk about the awesome scene when they decide to fight back with Sid? And he's like, look, it's just going to require us to break a couple of rules. And then all of a sudden he starts doing it's like Chucky. Who are you calling busted, Buster? Huh? And he's just like, we don't like you blowing us up, Sid. We don't. And he just gets more sinister. And even the music gets, I remember watching that thinking, okay, I know it's a kid's movie, but I'm getting kind of freaked out here. This is a little intense. And then all of a sudden his head spins around and then he comes to life and talks. I love that scene. It is awesome. It just freaks the heck out of Sid. Oh my gosh.
Pat, I did want to point out when you accidentally called Buzz and Woody Buddy a minute ago.
Buddy, yeah.
And you Tuvixed them.
Yeah.
I did feel like that's the scene in the alternate universe when they don't make it out of Sid's room. That's what they become.
Yeah.
They become
That's
Buddy.
what they become. Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, buddy.
Oh.
Mrs. Nez Buddy.
Don't you get it? Do you see the hat? I'm Mrs. Nesbit.
All right. I think it's time for 3 questions.
He asks each traveler 5 questions. 3 questions. 3 questions.
It's impossible to answer.
Impossible because you don't know the answer.
Nobody could answer that question.
I want to ask you a bunch of questions. I want to have them answered immediately.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
Okay. When I said 3 questions, Bo, you didn't have to do 3 sneezes.
You know me, John. I give it all and leave it all out on the field. So I felt I had to.
Clearly, I was.
Finally,
I know we were muted, but I was worried about you. All right. Question number 1. What was your favorite toy growing up?
My BB gun.
Was it a Red Ryder?
With this thing that tells time.
Yeah, there you go. The compass and the stock and this thing which tells time.
Favorite toy.
I have a hard time narrowing this one down because there was I had all my He-Man guys, I had my Star Wars guys, I had my, I had my little, those little muscle men guys, like the little fleshy colored army men kind of deal.
Oh yeah.
I love those ones. I don't know.
Then what do you mean by growing up? Like, that's such a nebulous term you found there.
Yeah, let's say before age 10. What was your favorite toy before age 10?
Oh, okay. That's a lot easier, actually. Okay. There was 2 of them. Actually, there might have been 3, but we had these mats, and they were just plastic, but printed on them were roads.
Mm-hmm.
And so you could use them with so much other stuff, driving cars around on them or setting up the G.I. Joe guy. But that mat, for whatever reason, we always knew where it was between my brother and I. You know how sometimes toys get misplaced and things you haven't played with? No, we could find those mats in 30 seconds if we needed them. So I think I'm going to go with those mats. just because they were so versatile and we used them for everything, and we never lost them.
Yeah. Those mats were pretty cool.
Dennis, was yours just?
You can smell it. I remember kind of the smell of the mats too. But what was it?
Yeah, that plastic. It had like a.
There's a texture to it,
and I'm sure it was carcinogenic and terrible for us and everything.
It was probably yes. It was probably causing some issues. That explained a lot.
I was asking if yours was like some rocks or like a rock and a stick.
Yeah, there you go.
Slingshot made out of wood and cowhide and.
Yeah, it was. No, mine. And when he says before 10, automatically will come to my mind. I'm going to say 3. I'm going to pull a Jeff here and just not give one answer. I'm going to go with.
Rejected your question.
Number 1. My. I wish I still had it. Was the $6 Million Man.
Oh,
with the eye that you could look
like you
love this.
Like look through it.
Yeah, that next one I'm going to go with is Stretch Armstrong.
Oh, did you ever cut him up to see what was inside?
Oh, yeah, we tried. Yeah, I think we went through a couple Stretch Armstrongs because we were like, we can stretch him further than. I mean, he'll snap. There was torture going on with Stretch Armstrong,
and then real Sid situation there.
Yeah, and then the third. I don't know why this pops out more than Star Wars. I think it's because Star Wars would be from like probably 11, maybe more like 10, 11 on. And this is actually not mine. It was my brother's, but it just has. I just remember it was the Star Trek figures. Sure. Captain Kirk and Spock. I remember those two specifically.
Okay.
And I would say probably those 3 pop out right away as far as like I think more toy or action figures because that's what I'm going with. If you want to go to other things, there's so many other toys at the time, but those would be the 3 that are like things. But definitely $6 Million Man would be number 1.
Nice.
I think I slept with him. People at this point. There was.
You care to add any context to that statement, sir?
I think there was also the female character came out.
Bring the lights down low, it's time to show. Lights, camera, you know what we mean.
That would be the bionic woman, Dennis. That would be the bionic woman, not the $6 Million Man.
That's what I meant. The bionic woman. I was trying to think of her name. I didn't have her. No.
Sure.
I wish.
Go ahead, Dennis. Good story.
Well, when you turn the lights down low,
I thought there was some sort of sense of protection.
That is also not helping your story at all.
No, that's not.
Dude,
this was the 1970s. What protection are you speaking of, Dennis? I'm not sure where you're going with this.
Well, he had these powers, He was pretty good. He's strong.
Guys, keep it clean. Jeff's got a 7-year-old in his house.
He was very muscular.
Yeah, he's sleeping now.
Oh, okay, that's fine. You say whatever you want then.
He was very muscular.
and gentle.
Please.
Slept with his shirt off.
Okay, I'll answer this question.
I'm comfortable now.
If for no other reason than to stop Dennis, I will also slightly cheat because I want to, and say some of my Ninja Turtle guys. I would say my favorite
Ninja Turtles.
Did you sleep with them?
No. No, Dennis. I played
just
with my
you,
toys.
Dennis.
Just you. That's
Just me?
you. Yeah.
Nobody slept with their toys?
Nope. So my Michelangelo toy, that was my favorite of the Ninja Turtles. My favorite He-Man toy was my He-Man that you could flick his chest or hit his chest and it would do the battle damage. It would like flip through and it would get more and more battle damaged as you was hit it.
Mm-hmm.
That was my other favorite one. And then this is my other favorite one. I actually still have this one. I went to go pull it off the shelf because it's not in great shape because I used to carry it around with me all the time. And I don't believe the head still makes the same noise that it used to. It's my little original R2-D2.
Oh.
Yeah.
So you used to carry it around everywhere, but you're not going to admit to sleeping with it. Is that what I'm hearing?
No, because I'm not a freak. Yeah.
Wow.
No. Bringing a toy to bed, that was like all innuendo aside. I mean, you saw this, right? Wasn't that one of Andy's big choices is trying to figure out who to sleep with? And when...
No, I know.
Woody's been shelved. Woody?
Maybe. So Andy could sleep with him. Okay.
I'm just picking on Dennis.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
Someone's got to do it.
It's fine.
And Jeff is flicking their chests. Yep.
No, that was me. That wasn't Jeff.
I mean, sorry, I meant John. Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah, I had a whole bunch of like, I didn't have a complete set of anything. Out of a little bit of a lot of different sets of things. So He-Man would fight, Thundercats would fight, G.I. Joe would fight, Ninja Turtles. And I would make bunkers for all of them out of my Legos. I remember we had I don't know where we got it from, but it was like a Fort Apache play set. And it was just like these plastic panels. They were probably 8 inches long, 6 inches high, and you could just clip them all together and set up a fort. And they had like a house that would set up in the middle, had like a covered wagon, which would be big enough for like the G.I. Joe guys to hang off of and fight and battle. So yeah, it was just like a whole combination of different toys that we would all get mixed together. I don't necessarily know that I had just one that I was like, this is the toy of toys for me.
Yeah. Well, then you had all the imaginary battles too. Like you bring all your characters that would never. This is why Ready Player One was so much fun for me, because I'm reading this book going, yes, this is exactly what I used to do as a kid. I would have RoboCop fighting the Predator, fighting the whatever, fighting the. I mean, those were you had the battles between He-Man and G.I. Joe and Moses from the Heroes of the Bible line that my grandmother bought me. So some of those battles got kind of awkward because I felt bad having Moses lose. Oh, I did. One I didn't mention, I will say, is the original Superpowers superhero toys that they had back in the 80s. They had the Superman, you like squeeze his legs together and he would do the punching action.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a bunch of those. They got left at a McDonald's in, I believe, Mississippi, because I was told not to bring them out of the car. I brought them out of the car, played with them on the play place, and then left them behind. And 20 minutes later, when I realized I'd left them behind, my dad refused to turn around. So they were lost and gone forever. Well,
sad.
Right. It was very sad. It's very sad. All right. Did everybody answer number one?
I think so.
All right. Number two. Did you have a favorite place to go for your birthday as a kid?
We're talking the same age bracket here?
Sure. Let's say 10 or younger.
I'm old school Pizza Hut. Like with the piping hot
with the cast iron skillet.
And, the cast iron skillets and the red plastic cups and the arcade nonsense. Yeah.
The tabletop Pac-Man Galaga duo
That's
game.
The one. That's the one.
Under 10, I'm just going to have to say going home, just being home. Because my grandparents would come over. It was like a big day. The cake from Finger Hut Bakery that you got to pick out the week before was going to be arriving. There were presents being brought over, and it just felt like your special day. So I'm going to stay home, and my brother and my family are all there. So I'm going home. If it's slightly after 10, then I'm going to say Haunted Trails Miniature Golf Arcade in, I think it's in southern suburb. I want to say, what the heck, which one is that? It's on like a Halstead Street or something. But yeah, anyway, but there's a Haunted Trails mini golf that was great. It had the dangling Frankenstein heads and all the different like mummy, and that was where I got to go more like 10 to probably 15 or 16. So that's it.
I feel like so many of my birthdays growing up were at Showbiz Pizza.
Showbiz Pizza. Yeah.
That was just, when I think back to all the birthdays growing up, I think that was like just the go-to place, because the video games were fine, all that. I loved skee-ball. So if I had the opportunity to play skee-ball at any point, that I was probably going to opt for playing some skee-ball.
Skee-ball.
Having a birthday in the middle of February didn't lend itself to many options of places to go. But there was an indoor mini golf place in I think it's Roselle, or used to be. It's probably closed now, but it was called Four Seasons. And the theme was traveling across the U.S. So each hole was designed with some sort of U.S. type of monument or moment in U.S. history. So that became the thing. Every year for my birthday party, people would meet at the house. We'd have, play a game or two, do presents, and then pile in the station wagon, get 12, 14 kids in a station wagon back in those days, and drive on over to the mini golf place and do some mini golf, and then some mini golf going, just dropping everybody off at their houses.
Yeah.
But yeah, Four Seasons indoor miniature golf.
Nice. Patrick, where did you go?
The water park. Any water park. The wave pools, the water parks, water slides, a little bit later on, once it was fun going out on the water once we were able to get out on the lake and do that whole thing. But that it was either at my grandma's during the summer, or later on we would get it. That was high school. So if you're talking like, more 10 and under and Andy's age, just anywhere with water, anywhere you could get out in the water. But, the water parks, Ozzy, well, there was the wave pool, I think, over in Wheeling, and that place was pretty awesome. And then, there was like Rainbow Falls and was around, but then there was Ozzy Water Park right on not Milwaukee. What was that? I think that was Wheeling as well. That was right up, it was a little bit of a, I don't want to say seedy area, but I think there was a adult entertainment spot. There was a bunch of used car dealerships. It was a little bit of a, mixed bag of what was around there, but there was Ozzy Water Park was up there, and that was a fun place to go for your birthday as well. That was a really fun. There was one water slide. Then they had a second one that was more for little kids, but then it was just one water slide, and you would just take the whole day running up the steps. I mean, I don't know how many flights of stairs you would run total in the day, but man, I remember going down that slide like 100, 200 times a day. But yeah, Ozzy Water Park was a lot of fun.
Nice. All right, and finally, question number 3. In terms of their personality, their mannerisms, stuff like that, which of the toys in this movie do you most identify with?
Now I would say it's Rex.
I was going to say Mr. Potato Head.
High anxiety.
Internally this week, Rex. Externally, most times, Ham.
I can see that.
Patrick, what toy are you?
Boy, I was hoping you'd forget about me. I'm trying to, I don't know. Woody or Buzz, the two main characters, right? Because, I think their story arcs are pretty awesome. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I mean, the character of Bo Peep, right, is pretty awesome because she's just trying to keep the peace and just be like, Andy, Woody still loves you. Hey, of course he likes the Buzz, when she's taking care of everybody. And just, I really liked her character, watching the movie, the persona. I'd like to think I'd be that person, but yeah, that's a hard one. I mean, I suppose, well, I don't know. It's a hard question.
It sounds like you gave your answer. You want to be the frisky shepherdess.
Yeah. Well, was she in this movie? Or we've only seen the first two.
No.
I like it when that wasn't flying. That was falling with style. I found my moving buddy. Yeah. I love that when she says that. I found my moving buddy. Oh man.
When his wings pop out in a very suggestive moment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, Dennis. Which one are you, Dennis?
I'm going Slinky Dog.
Okay.
Slink Dog.
Slink Dog, yep.
Nice.
But again, very tough question.
Yeah.
Like I said, at this point, at this stage of my life, I would say that I'm a lot more like Rex.
In what way? What are the character traits?
The anxiety, the uncertainty about a lot of things, and just wanting things to go right all the time, but not knowing the best way to make it happen. So you just sort of get stuck in the planning process of things. I can't make a decision because I'm not sure what the right decision is. And now I'm getting anxious about the fact that I'm not able to make a decision.
Great. Now I have guilt.
Right? Like that line, line hits. Like, oh, now I have guilt.
Yeah. He says in that line in particular, and just kind of the way he says it, he also sounds a little bit to me like a Ralph Wiggum from The Simpsons.
My cat's breath smells like cat food.
These taste like grandma. Oh, you're right. They do taste like grandma. All right. That's going to do it for this one, folks. This has been Toy Story. This is part of February's Kids Month. Our Patreon episode this month is the movie Balto from 1995. Our Patreon short is Captain America Brave New World from this year. This is our first week of this month, Toy Story. Next week is Pocahontas. After that, we have got E.T., the extraterrestrial. That is part of our 10th anniversary rewatch. And we are going to be trying to bring on our good buddy Podrick for that episode. And then we will end the month with Casper and Babe.
Podrick has not seen E.T.
I believe that's what he said, is that he has never seen E.T., so he's going to watch it right before we record, just so it's fresh in his mind. And yeah. So think of when we get to that point, think of questions you would want to ask a person who is an adult and watching it for the first time when it comes to E.T.
Kind of like when we had Jason on here who had never seen It's a Wonderful
Life, right? Yeah. Yeah. So, all right. So really good stuff coming up. Thank you, gents, for being here.
Yep.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John.
We got the whole cast of characters back together tonight.
We did.
Yep.
It was awesome.
Internet was working. Yep.
Yeah. All right.
Wow.
You had to go and bring that one up, did you?
Wow.
Bring the lights down low, it's time to show. Lights, camera, you know what we mean. Behold the magic of
I'm not stopping it this time.
Bye, John.
Bye, guys.
Now Dennis has guilt.
Guilt.
No, he doesn't.
No,
That's the thing. He does not.
life moves pretty fast. Some will fizzle and some movies last. I understood there would be no math. It's the third.
It's just reassuring that as far as I know, I'll outlive Dennis.
Excellent to each other. Peace out and word to your mother. From the best decades, movie magic that never fades. Lightsabers clash, phasers say